the last drop? Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. And life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life Podcast. My name's Jen. Welcome back to those listeners that have been with us from the beginning, and welcome to the podcast to those new listeners that are coming on every day. We appreciate all of you guys. It's just not just me today. Of course, there's always my co-host, Bryan.
Hi.
Say hi, Bryan.
I just did.
I know. I always sound so cheesy and canned in the beginning.
Yeah, it's kind of how most podcasts are, unless you have, like on Salty Language, where I'm always like, hey, enthusiasts, welcome to Salty Language episode, blah, blah, blah. I do that every time, and that's the reason I do that every time. Because if I try to wing it, like, the difference is if you listen to our enthusiast sub-show, I'm a mess every opening on that show.
Yeah, openings are always so difficult.
Right. Openings and closings.
Yes, openings and closings. Ugh, it's always difficult. I mean, it's even difficult, like, in conversations.
Yeah.
Like meeting someone or talking to someone from the very, for the first time or something. That opening part it's just awkward.
Right.
It's never easy.
Well, that's why you got to do the same thing. You just, walk up to them and, hey, potential friend, I'm Bryan. This is a handshake. You just do the same thing. This was an awkward hug. Yeah, whatever.
Exactly.
You just got to turn on a little game show voice and go after it.
So, Bryan, how was your week? How's it been?
Nah, just about the same as the last ones and such. So, just...
That's not the point of this podcast, mister.
I know.
It's time to make some changes.
Yeah, there's a lot of things stopping me from making changes, though, so... I'm having like paperwork issues that are like tying up my health care, so I can't go to the doctor. So, stuff like that, and it's kind of making me just have to spin my wheels until that stuff just sorts itself out almost. And I have to wait for like government agencies to finish their paperwork. So it's not even like just a normal, it's something where they're especially not known for being fast at something, so yeah.
Right, that always sucks.
Right.
But in the meantime, there's things you can do on your own.
Yeah. I know.
This is not the guilt podcast. This is the
it's just
podcast.
It's the hardest part for me, though, is like we talked about, was it a couple weeks ago, about the what's the point kind of a thing. Yeah. It's like on days where I'm doing podcasts, I'm doing work for those or whatever, and on the days when I don't have them, I'm kind of still doing stuff for them generally, whether it's promoting or looking up stories or you know what I mean. It's like I'm kind of doing a job, except I'm not getting paid, except in gratification, so it's, it's rewarding, but at the same time, it's, sometimes the pressure of that kind of gets to me, and, it's, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but.
No, I understand what you're saying. I mean, this last week it's been really good for me. But it's just been a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
My best friend came in from out of town, so I spent a lot of time with her. my boyfriend had the weekend off, so I was spending time with him, and we were babysitting his friend's dog. So then we had to return the dog, so we spent some time with them. And so it's just been a series of me, I go to work, and then I have an event after work, or, on Saturday.
Right.
Was kind of a relaxing day, but then still, we put the air conditioner in. We gave the cats a bath, which is entertainment in all of itself.
Right.
So, and of course, it has to happen one at a time, because just for those out there who have cats, do not try to bathe once. Never a good choice.
Nah, it's fine. You just need a really big bathtub. Just throw them both in and
yeah,
just leave them be.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, because when you're bathing a cat, you have two options. You can either wear a bathing suit or pretty much be naked, because you're going to be in the bathtub with them. You're going to get completely soaked. So, what's the point? So you end up with scratches in some odd places.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, regardless of whether you're wearing a bathing suit or not, you end up with scratches in odd places.
Right.
So it just happens. So, but so that was entertaining. But it's been a lot of just stuff.
Yeah.
Very good stuff, but stuff. And even tonight, driving home from work, because after work I had an art glass class that I went to with some people I work with. And then after that, I'm driving home, I'm texting you, I'm like, well, let's record tonight. And tomorrow I've got a nail appointment. Friday I'm going out with my dad. I'm not going to have, time to myself probably until Saturday.
Right, and it's funny because, I'm sure a lot of people listening are just like, hey, that's life. And there's something, everybody needs time to themselves, but people who deal with anxiety issues need solitude at some point so that they don't, so you don't unravel too far. It's like, and I know you and I are both this way. Is it much like, most people when they come home from work, they want to, I don't know, the stereotype, grab a beer, sit around for a little bit. And it's like, the problem is that, if I reach a point where I just cannot do anymore. I'll be on for so long. If I had the week you just had, I'd probably be a damn mess at this point, because I would just be like, I can't do this anymore. I need to be alone or left alone for a while to kind of recenter myself, I guess, for lack of a better term. So the fact that you're able to keep doing this, given what I know of you, tells me that your medicine's doing a good job. And that you've probably found a balance in there, somewhere.
I mean, the good news is that my job is pretty isolated.
Yeah.
So, I'm around people, but I can put my headphones on, my podcasts, and then just kind of put my face to the computer and just go at it. So, which is nice. So I don't have to have that constant interaction, and I think that's what my saving grace has been.
Yeah.
But even with that, I'm noticing that my temper is shorter.
Right.
That I'm much more sensitive to things. Like today, I snapped at. There's a gentleman that I work with, who's kind of in a lead position. He's not my direct leader, but he's got a little bit of more authority than I do.
Right.
But he really irritates me in how he talks.
Oh, right.
So, because he's just, I don't know, he just comes across as, overconfident, and everything that he says is golden, and he's not a big listener.
Oh,
so,
right.
Yeah, he was making some comments today about the quality of work being done, how we need to work on our quality, but yet the training, we haven't had official training to tell us how to do things the correct way. So, yeah, that kind of just cheesed me off. And, I caught myself. I had to, hold myself back because I was on the verge of tirade. Because I've been asking for training for good 4 months now.
Yeah.
and have not. And he keeps telling me the training is coming. The training is coming.
It's
And
like
he's complaining. Yeah.
It's like watching Game of Thrones. Yeah, winter is coming. It's like, we're in season what now? Yeah. Anyway.
He's like, oh, training is coming. Training is coming. Training is coming. You know, the quality of your work's not holding up.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we have no standards. We have no
We haven't
training.
been trained.
It's like, how are we supposed to hold up to standards that don't exist?
Yeah, we don't know what the standards are because we've never been shown what the standards are.
It's like,
Yeah.
So, I will say, my comments did garner applause from other people in the area.
Right.
So, I'm not I wasn't all the way off.
Right.
But on the flip side, I do recognize the fact that under normal circumstances, I really need to control myself.
Yeah.
I would control myself a lot better if I wasn't stressing myself out with all of these other things that I'm doing.
Well, it's tough, though, too, because you are going up against months of frustration on top of it. So even if everything else was nice and calm, you might still be fighting it because of just that frustration alone is enough, So when you combine it with the other, then it becomes, like you said, then it becomes, something that's a real opponent, Yeah.
And it's so weird because when you work in a corporate atmosphere, even with frustration, you have to be so delicate.
Yeah.
Just everything that you say, everything you do has to be handled just so.
Right.
Because otherwise, things get blown out of proportion and it just goes out of control. So it's so difficult. And this is somebody that I've been kind of having these headbutts with for a little while now. And I've even called him out and we've done like a one-on-one and just kind of chatted a little bit about it. I don't think he got it, but...
Well, you said he's not big on listening, so...
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. He barely let me finish what I was saying before he jumped in, and I don't think he did let me finish.
That's so rude and wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, so...
When someone sets up a meeting like that with you and then just starts telling you, hey, here's my problem, and you're just like, I'm going to let you finish, but Beyonce had the best... Yeah, it's like, come on.
Yeah, and he's a good heart and a good man, and I really like him, and I really do.
But that really has nothing to do with professional situation, you know what I mean?
His leadership style and my following style are not along the same path.
I've worked with plenty of people that I would love to go have beers with, but not work with ever again, So it's, just because their work ethic is awful, or there's something about them that just rubs you wrong. But in a non-work environment, you're like, they're probably a good time, or, whatever. Yeah.
And I mean, it just brings up a whole interesting dynamic when you add mental illness on top of those types of stressors and stuff. I mean, we all experience people in our lives that we must deal with, whether they're a friend's spouse or, or significant other, or it's a family member or whatever it is. We all have those people. And when in a normal everyday circumstance, it's not that bad, and you just kind of, you deal with them and you avoid them whenever you can and you just move on. But when you have mental illness, it's interesting because everything becomes, especially for me, everything becomes very nitpicky in my own head. Mm-hmm. So, especially when it comes down to people who I'm not 100% sure on.
Yeah.
So, like, things that are said by me, by them, will stick in my head and will play over and over and over and over.
Sure, yeah.
And it's like this never-ending loop of thoughts that I should have said this, I could have done that, they shouldn't have said this, maybe I should be mad, maybe I shouldn't be mad, do I have a reason to be upset? Should I let this go? Do I make an issue out of it? All of this stuff starts jumbling up in your brain, and pretty soon something as simple as, I I bumped into somebody in the hall and they didn't say hi, turns into this massive issue.
Yeah.
That you can't even see past.
Right. Yeah, it's funny how that is. Sometimes it's a slow spiral or a snowball rolling down a hill, and other times it just becomes an avalanche, you know, and it's so easy for it to transition from one to the other, you know, that it doesn't seem like it's that big a deal. You're like, okay, you tell yourself, I just let it go, and whatever, and, because everybody has those, like you said, everybody's got that. Everybody's got some doubt, at times that, did I handle that right? You'll replay an event over in your head. It's like, I think the problem is obviously when you're doing it all the time, or when you're doing it over something that happened like a year ago or 5 years ago, or, and you're like, did I do that? What if I had done this? If I, like you start falling into the what if thing, and, and you can't live there, because that's just perpetual doubt. It feeds itself and it feeds itself and it feeds it, and all you'll do is spin your tires. I've spent days and days and days doing that kind of stuff. So,
and it's also the fact that when you only have a handful of incidences that happen in your day-to-day life, so as you isolate yourself, it's easier because you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about the awkwardness, or if something goes wrong, that constant harassment that goes through your head and all that stuff.
Right.
So by being by yourself, you don't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
But the downside to that is you don't have much to bounce around in your head.
Yeah.
So when there is an altercation or there is something that happens that's not the most comfortable, all of a sudden it becomes huge because you don't have much other things to occupy the brain,
Right, yep.
So it's you have to kind of find the balance between the two. Now, there's been some really interesting articles and books and stuff written about the inner bully, because that's really what we're talking about. When you're talking about that voice in your head,
yeah,
and nobody can be as mean to us as ourselves.
Right. Now, again, like you've stated in the past, I just want to state again, when you say the voice in our head, you're not referring to either of us actually dealing with multiple personality disorder or schizophrenia type things. You're just meaning that doubt that lives within our head,
That's called the id.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people have referred to it as the id.
Right.
To our yin to our yang.
Man versus self as a plot device, essentially.
Exactly.
That's why I always said any story I ever write about me, that's clearly how it's going to be written, is man versus self, because nothing in my life has ever been a foe I couldn't take down to this point aside from me.
Yeah, and that's Aisha Tyler who those of you may not know who that is, she's a comedian, as well as she does some shows like she's on Archer and other things.
Right.
Whose line is it anyways? Right. All that good stuff. But she's got a podcast called Girl on Guy. And she interviews celebrities. And she ends every interview with what she calls a self-inflicted wound.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yep, she always ends with self-inflicted wounds.
Yep.
And every time I hear a self-inflicted wound story from a celebrity, it harkens back to my own. And I really, I can relate. It's like everybody has them, regardless of mental illness or not. Yeah. Everybody has self-inflicted wounds, things that we do to ourselves. The mental behavior, especially. We are so horribly hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
And criticize ourselves. That it's just nothing will destroy you faster.
Yeah.
Than the stuff you would say stuff to yourself that you wouldn't dream of saying to another human being.
I tweeted a long time ago. I saw there was somebody, I don't even remember who it was, but someone on Twitter made some comment about it was a woman. She made some comment about I can't remember what it was, but it was essentially alluding to that she would ruin a guy, I'd ruin your life or something like that. And my response, I didn't send it directly to her, but I just tweeted it because it kind of bounced in my head, and I kind of thought this was funny, yet at the same time very true, is I'm 36, I live with my mother, I have suffer from crippling depression and anxiety. I'm like, what you got? You can't ruin my life much worse. I'm broke. Broken in ways mentally. You can't do anything to me that's any worse than what I'm already dealing with. Bring it on, kind of a thing, And it's
exactly.
So yeah, I get what you're saying though.
Well, in the words of William Shakespeare, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking it makes it so.
Yeah.
And that's really where I think a lot of it comes down to how you choose to view a situation. One thing that we both have in common that, honestly, your dad taught me a lot about, which is laughter and the power of laughter, and how you view things. Just about anything can be viewed as funny if you choose to view it that way.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's humor in everything.
Yeah, and there really is. It's why I've laughed at so many things that people find so inappropriate, and I just can't help it. And I can give a recent example, which is, recently I lost a niece, suddenly. And at the funeral, they had those Chinese lanterns. And one of them got caught in a tree. And the first thing I thought of is, I need to take a picture of this. Because to me, it was hilarious in that that's so, to me, it's that's just me. That's what would happen, of course one has to get caught in there. It couldn't just go flawless. It couldn't, one had to get caught in the tree, and I'm standing there going, please don't set the tree on fire. Please don't set, and it's just, and yet laughing the whole time. And I know, you were standing there, so you got it, but it was most of the people standing around were not going to laugh at something like that. It's just one of those weird things, it's, a kid with a colic, in a family picture, where that hair just will not lay down. It is defiant in the face of, everyone's got their finest clothes on, but that one hair, he's got that alfalfa going on, and, it just will not lay down,
And there's two ways of looking at those things. We've all seen it. We've all seen, we've done it to ourselves, but we've also seen other people, especially, I think, moms. Moms really fall into this.
Yeah.
And brides. The bridezillas and the crazy moms that want everything to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like you said, for the family photo. Yeah. It's not going to bother anybody else but the mom. The mom will look at that photo every single time and swear at that hair.
Yeah. Or meanwhile, everyone else will laugh and, oh, that's cute, that whatever, and, everyone's, like I said, you're in your finest clothes, and you can tell everything's posed and as it should be, and then that one hair is just the middle finger sticking up, and that's the moments where, like I said, there's just so much stuff that happens in life that just, if you don't laugh at it, there's some things that, if you don't laugh at, will just you'll just crumble almost. And again, I mentioned on my other podcast, a couple weeks ago, my mom has really bad vertigo, and she fell. And when she fell, she had this pegboard stuff blocking a dog from getting into the other room, and she went right through this, fell right through it. And I just, when we helped her up, and once I knew she was okay, I was like, Mom, I know, they're doing tryouts on TV for WWE, but you don't have to do what the wrestlers are doing on TV, and we laughed about it because, it's just, that's who we are. That's my family. That's her, me and my dad, we were always, always, no matter how grim, we always found a way to laugh because I'll tell you, I've said countless times, if it wasn't for my sense of humor, I'd have probably put two in my head a long time ago because I don't think I could have made it,
Well, an interesting article that I was reading on tinybuddha.com, which is a interesting name for a website. And very cool stuff on here, so I highly recommend checking it out. In the article, it talks about different things that we say to ourselves that we can immediately and easily respond to. So I think these really kind of touched on a lot of kind of what we talked about, but also what we deal with. The first one is, so what? So, when you do something really good or you're really proud of yourself and you got that voice in the back of your head going, so what?
Yeah.
Well, that's dumb, You have no reason to be all excited. That was cranky.
Clearly in agreement. Yeah.
Clearly in agreement.
Yeah.
But that's so what? You know what? The easiest way to combat that voice is say, yeah, so what if you think that? That doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
You honestly have to start talking back to yourself.
Right. It's true. Yeah.
Try not to talk back to yourself in public.
Well, we talked about this a little bit last week, standing in front of a mirror and self-affirmations and, it sounds silly. It sounds crazier. Like, it sounds like you're falling further down the rabbit hole, but you're not. It's what you have to do to climb or stay out of the rabbit hole, I guess you could say, whichever.
And start talking to that bully in your head like you would any bully. If someone came up to you and you just, completed a marathon and you're very proud of yourself, and someone comes up like, so what?
Yeah. That
was dumb. You just ran for no apparent reason.
Mm-hmm.
And you have that voice or that bully in front of you standing there saying this stuff to you. You wouldn't even care. You'd probably push the other person out of the way and go, you know what? I'm proud of myself. I completed something.
I wouldn't be able to say anything because I'd be like falling over crying from...
Me too. But beside that...
I probably wouldn't even be crying because I'd be dehydrated.
Salt shaker salt just comes flying out of your eyes.
Right, pretty much.
But, talk to yourself the same way. When you start hearing that voice, yell at it. Tell it to basically take a hike. It's like, no, I'm proud of myself, and I'm going to be proud of myself, and forget you. There's no place for you.
Yeah, I keep seeing people online doing this. Like, recently, I'm seeing more and more of it, and I'm going to say especially women I've seen doing this, that they're like, it's funny when you remove people who are toxic from your lives, how much more you believe in yourself, basically. And I'm like, there's a lot to be said there. There are a lot of people that hang out in toxic groups and to where all the people do is bitch and nitpick and all this kind of stuff. And if you removed yourself from that group, it's amazing how much differently you'll see things, Yep. So there is that.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing internal
as
it is external.
Exactly.
You've got to remove that negative. The next thing that we say to ourselves is, who cares? I think that's a big one for me. Because, I do things or I go out of my way and accomplish things for myself. But then I also have that voice saying, who cares? There's no, what's the point? It's stupid. Nobody notices, nobody cares, so why even bother doing it?
Right.
The answer to that one is, you think your judgments mean something to me? They don't. Put that voice in its place. Tell it doesn't matter. And pretty soon, the more you tell it doesn't matter, it's not going to matter as much. You have to choose to focus on the positive and choose to focus on the good stuff. And it's hard. It's incredibly hard. Especially when you're dealing with other things like the chemical imbalances and all the other junk that's going on in your head. It's even harder. But it's even more important because of all that to step outside yourself and say, no, this is important because I feel it's important.
Right.
Doesn't matter anything else. I feel it's important. I'm going to achieve this. I'm doing it for me, and really focus on that and hold that and keep that victory.
Right.
It doesn't matter what it is. Got to keep that victory going. Another one we keep saying is big deal. Oh, seriously. Big effing deal, right?
Yep.
It is a big deal. You know, if you get out of bed and you choose to participate in life, that is a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, don't ever let yourself tell you that it's not. It's a big deal to get up and take an active part in the world around you and take an active part in your life and do things that better yourself and better others. That's huge. You know, and if you don't feel that it is huge, keep telling yourself it is huge until you do believe it. You know?
Yeah.
There is something to be said for all the parents out there that tell their kids how beautiful they are, how wonderful they are, and how cherished they are. Every single day they say how, you know, the child could be, in all intents and purposes, according to society, the ugliest child on the face of the planet.
Right.
But to that parent, that child's beautiful.
You know what?
And if you tell the child enough, it'll believe it.
I've said this countless times, like, how amazed I am that I see people that are, like, just huge people and, you know, or not, like you said, not what society would deem as attractive or whatever, and they are out there with all the confidence in the world. Like, I have seen guys that go 450 hitting on women like guys that are, you know, $185 and shredded. You know what I mean? Like, and they just, oh, okay, you know, the girl says no, and they just move on until, you know, and I'm standing there going, how in the hell, you know, because I can't fathom that, you know, and like I said, it's amazing how some people just have that confidence, and other people, it's like, God, like, I talk myself out of even thinking about, like, I find myself at times, and I know I'm not alone on this, is that, you know, like on like online dating sites and stuff, like, you see, like, it's amazing to me what you look at versus the people that you look at versus the people that look at you. That can be a problem. Like, I can't almost suggest enough, never look at the visitors on your online dating thing if you have any sort of a self-esteem issue, because it's done nothing but horrible things for mine, because it almost makes me go, maybe I'm shooting too high. And that's awful. There is no such thing as someone out of your league. Always swing for, and again, I'm not going to say swing for the fences, because that means it's just going to stay in the park. Swing for the, you know, swing for out of the park, or however you want to word that. But it's like, there's no such thing as a league for anyone. Because somebody, just because they're more attractive, maybe they're shallow as hell. Maybe they're not as deep philosophically as you. Maybe they, you know what I mean? Like, we all have flaws. There's no one who is truly perfect. So there's no such thing as a league. And that really refers to anything in life. Always swing as hard as you can.
Absolutely. And you know what? We've all seen American Idol. We've all laughed at the people who go on the show and make, according to us, an absolute fool of themselves.
Right.
But according to them, they've achieved their goal. They wanted to be on TV. They wanted people to hear their voice, and they wanted people to see what they could do.
Yeah.
You know? So they won.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They have achieved what they set out to do.
You know, you look at somebody like William Hung, or whatever his name was, you know, that was on Idol for that brief, like, 5 minutes. You know, and it's like, look what being on that show turned into for that guy. I mean, you know, it's like, hey, whereas if he had just been like, hey, I know I can't sing at all, and my dancing is laughable, you know, kind of a thing. But instead, he just embraced it and went with it, and, you know, got a few minutes of fame out of it, you know.
And probably a few dollars.
Probably, yeah, you know.
You know?
He's got multiple albums out. That's more than I can say for some musicians, you know. I mean, and I'm not knocking anybody. It's just just the truth, you know.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, and I think that goes to the next one, which is, why not? Why shouldn't I do this? You're telling me I can't, I won't, I'm not worthy of it? Why not? I'm going to continue doing this anyway because I can. No matter what you say, I'm going to just keep diving in. You know, how often, like if William Hung is a perfect example, if he kept telling himself, I shouldn't do this, I'm going to make a fool of myself, what am I thinking? You know, if he would have let any of those thoughts into his head, he never would have had the courage and the forethought to go on the show and to give it his all.
Right. Well, even take the same thing and look at any time you go to a dance club and watch guys dance there. There's so many guys that absolutely cannot dance, but they are not afraid to get out and do it. And it's not even I'm going to go make people laugh. It's like they're trying. They're just awful. But how many times does that come across as endearing? Because they tried it, or what, you know what I mean? So it's, you end up with the result you want, which is generally to have fun, potentially, you know, pick up a lady, whatever, you know, and there you go, you know, and a lot of times you can end up that way. Or you can find your comedy career that you didn't know you had, you know, I don't
Right? You never know what's going to happen if you put yourself out there. So you just got to keep putting yourself out there, you know, and it's so tough.
Right.
Because sometimes those voices don't shut up. I mean, perfect example. I have, you know, with me being bipolar and the anxieties and stuff, I've got some serious bullies in my head.
Yeah, so do I.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some really bad ones.
Yeah, mine are to the point that they have almost manifested into a physical, like I almost feel like they're holding me down in the, you know, when I want to get out of bed now, which I've openly acknowledged is a problem. I
mean, I'm very grateful. The medicine that I'm on takes the edge off.
Yeah.
A lot. It allows me to sleep. It allows me to do things and to put myself out there, and allows me to be able to laugh when things don't go perfectly.
Right.
You know, I still have those voices, and I still, you know, toss things around in my head more than I should. But for the most part, I'm able to kind of push past them. I mean, some of the stuff I used to do when I was a kid, because I've had this issue for most of my life, but when I was a child, it was undiagnosed. And I used to work myself up to tears over stuff that didn't even involve me.
Yeah.
You know, stuff that I would even see. Like, you know, somebody would be embarrassed, you know, for whatever reason. Like in high school, something happens. Somebody gets embarrassed by something. That person's embarrassment would affect me. And I was so sensitive, and it would stay with me. And I would toss it around in my head so much that I'd have so much empathy for that person that I would work myself up into tears. And I'd be so beside myself and so upset over something. And it had nothing to do with me whatsoever. But I'd still be upset about it. And, you know, that's how sensitive I could be. And I couldn't stop these voices. So what my mom did is my mom got me this tape to help me sleep at night. And one of the things that it recommended was to take those thoughts and imagine them on a piece of film running through your brain. Then imagine scissors and taking out your scissors and cutting it up.
Right.
And blowing it away.
Yeah.
And repeat that.
Right. Like I said before, it's similar to the old, you know, write your negative thoughts on a piece of paper and burn it or bury it or whatever kind of a, yeah.
But this, I mean, and I would have to do that for a good half hour before I could finally get whatever that image was out of my head.
Right. I think that's part of why I've always slept with like TV or radio or something on, is because it's my mind will focus more on that than other stuff. Like it's a distraction for me, even though I'm sleeping. It's like, but I'll wake up periodically, and I almost need something that's there, because if it isn't, then I'll start obsessing, you know. And you know, because I've slept with a TV or a radio on for, man, I don't, as long as I can remember, probably until I was in, like, you know, elementary school type. What you were saying about the empathy for others and stuff, I think the easiest way for most people to maybe understand that, or a lot of people I should say, is if you have kids and someone describes something bad, like you see something on TV, like on the news, where something really bad happens to a kid, and you immediately project it into, oh my God, if that ever happened to my kid, I would blank. And I think that it's that kind of mentality is, whether you meant to or not, you probably are projecting that embarrassment onto yourself, how you would handle it, and then you get super upset. Plus, you know, you don't want to see anyone go through that to begin with. And I think parents do similar things regularly, because there's been a lot of people that'll make jokes about, you know, Family Guy did it actually when Bryan has a son, and every time one of the guys, you know, they make a comment about something, and they're like, Bryan, what would you do if your kid, like, you know, did this? And he's like, oh, I can't even imagine, you know, and he just starts flipping out. And they're making fun of how absurd that is, but at the same time, it's like with us, we both kind of, and more so you than me on this topic, but we both go through this a lot for reasons that we shouldn't. Like, people we don't really know, and we both will still feel really, you know, like I said, I don't know if it's a projection thing or if it's something else, but, you know.
And it's weird because, I mean, I do the same thing sometimes with movies or things you see on TV. That's why I can't watch horror films. I can't watch horror films because, you know, I empathize too much with characters. And
which is funny, because what you should be doing is what most people do with horror movies, which is yelling at the characters for their dumb behaviors.
Exactly.
No, don't run to the tool shed.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's absurd. And I can acknowledge that it's absurd. And I can see that it's absurd.
Yeah.
But it's, again, one of those things that it's who I am. So I've learned to kind of accept these things, and I avoid certain things because of that.
Yeah.
I take medicine to help me control other aspects of it.
Right.
So, you know, I do actively take part in trying to overcome these obstacles that kind of stand in my way. You know, so it is a choice, and it's an active choice that I make on a daily basis.
Yeah, I understand.
Sometimes hourly.
Yeah. It's why I tend to stay away from, like, dramatic movies and stuff, because I find that they parallel my depression too much a lot of times, you know, because you feel really bad for a person, you know, this has happened to them or whatever, and that's why I tend to stay more within, you know, comedies or that kind of thing. I even have to be careful of, like, documentaries, because I get to a point that I'm just like, man, either I'll identify too much with something, you know, like you'll find somebody who's similar to you in a movie and you really identify with them or something, you know. But I kind of watch out for stuff like that a little bit too. And that's why I tend to just stick with mostly comedies, because I'd just rather be laughing, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's for a good portion of the movies I watch are comedies. Yeah. And I try to keep it pretty light.
That is a flat-out lie. Most of the movies you watch are Harry Potter.
Which can be considered a comedy at some point. No.
I have seen all of them. No laughs were had.
Yes, folks, I am a huge Potter fan. I do have a wand and my Every Flavor beans. Visiting the Universal Studios Harry Potter World exhibit, or whatever you want to call it.
It's called the Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
Thank you. Yeah. There you go. And I am going to get to see the second one this coming winter, November, including taking a ride on the Hogwarts Express. Woohoo! Very, very excited by all this. But beside the fact, yeah, I do try to do comedies or things that really kind of take me outside of myself, outside of reality. Yeah. So that it kind of protects me from over empathizing or getting too emotionally caught up in things that I really shouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand, sure.
Thankfully, I don't cry at Kleenex commercials anymore. Yay for that. And those damn cotton ads. Really, people?
I don't know.
Yes, there's cotton ads. The cotton, the fabric for your life is their slogan. Right. And they show people wearing cotton, of course. But they have a few commercials, especially in the past, a girl at her wedding with her father, and stuff that very pulls at your heartstrings type of stuff.
Right.
So, no more crying of those. Thanks for the lovely meds I take. So, on Psychology Today website, there is a gentleman, Clark Connolly, and he talks about negative self-talk, and he carries in his wallet this antidote card. And in the antidote card is written, the first one is preparation and anticipation. So, anticipate situations and try to be as prepared as possible. So you're not taken off guard, so you have time to kind of take a look at the situation ahead of time so that you can kind of plan your attack, shall we say.
Yeah.
Whenever it can. But I will caution you, don't over-prepare and don't over-anticipate, because then you'll let your anxieties and that negative bully get in your head, and you won't do anything.
You might as well tell me don't breathe as well, because...
Don't overthink it.
Overanalyzing, overthinking, and over-preparing, or what... that's what I think is... It's maybe the most fascinating thing to me about doing the other podcasts I do, Salty Language, is we go in with almost no prep. Mm-hmm. And for somebody like me and I'm not one of those that I have to have an itinerary. I actually am a person who's very anti-itinerary and such. And it's so funny because on one level, it's like I have to have a to-do list. I have this. I have very calculated with a lot of stuff. But then when you get me in real life, I'm more like, all right, whatever. Like once I'm out and I'm down for whatever generally once we're doing something. So it's kind of weird how, like, with that podcast, it's just been no prep, no overthinking it, just here it is. We actually found ourselves doing our episode last week, and we were sitting there talking about where we wanted to put certain things in the show because it was our 200th episode, So we were like, do we want to arrange it this way? And then we're both like, what are we doing? This isn't what we do on this show, And then we just went back to winging it.
And I think that suits you, because I'm the same way. I'm very spontaneous in a lot of ways. I'm very planned in a lot of ways too. But if you can catch me off guard, and especially if I'm with someone I trust,
yeah,
a good sorry people, Frankie wants attention. Like, my boyfriend is very big on trying to get me to break free of a lot of my hang-ups on knowing exactly what I'm doing when I'm doing it and having all these plans.
Right.
So he's very, very good about just pretty much telling me, all right, we're going somewhere, get in the car.
Yeah.
And he understands now, after going through this a few times, he understands now that he needs to tell me a couple things. Yeah. 1, do I need to wear makeup?
Right.
2, what I'm going to be comfortable wearing.
Yeah.
In
fairness though, that stuff is kind of courtesy stuff.
Yes.
More than it is even mental illness kind. Because I could see most of the people listening going, yeah, because it's like, clearly I don't want to wear t-shirt and shorts or whatever, and then it's like, oh, here we are at Fancy La Restaurant, and it's like, ah,
So I've learned I don't ask where we're going.
Yeah.
But I ask if I need to wear makeup, and if what I'm wearing is appropriate.
Yeah, and that, like, I've done that for a long time. Like, I'll ask, like, I'll call, like, if we're going somewhere, I'll call, like, Tony, my best friend, and be like, hey, what are you wearing? Like, as weird as this sounds, but it's like, am I going to be the only, like, how dressed up do I need to be, basically, because I don't want to be, like I said, I don't want to be, like, t-shirt and jeans. Everybody else is wearing, like, button-down shirts or something,
Mm-hmm. So I think, in that really kind of helped me let go of some of the control that I seem to want to have and want to place on things.
Yeah.
So again, it's like the combination, the preparation and anticipation, and making sure that I feel I'm going to feel comfortable, but also jumping into something and not overthinking it.
Right.
So it's finding that balance.
As silly as it sounds, one of my favorite things that's happened over the last 5 to 10 years is the invention of the DVR. And the reason for it is because otherwise it's, well, Monday I'm watching this, Tuesday I'm watching this, Wednesday. And with the DVR, it kind of has forced me to remember and just choose when I watch TV instead of, no, it has to be this night because if I miss it Monday, I'll miss it. Now I don't have to worry about it. I can, and as weird as that sounds, it's just it's forced me, not forced me, but it's allowed me to break free of that kind of shackling to, Monday night,
Exactly. No, I'm the same way. You can watch your shows whenever you want to watch them now.
Right.
Versus feeling like you need to plan around them.
Right. Although it is still difficult because the internet exists and everyone wants to spoil everything, but that's a whole different.
Spoilers.
Yep.
Well, the next one on his card is breathing, 10 deep breaths.
Yeah. That one I do a lot, actually.
Me too.
I find myself and that was actually suggested to me from that doctor that we both went to for a while. When I went to see her the one time. She talked about, forcing myself to breathe correctly, and not just at one time, like when you're feeling anxious, but to try to do it through the day. Like force yourself to take in the breath through your nose, allow it to cycle, and then out your mouth. Like you focus on the breathing process, and much like you would if you meditated or anything along those lines.
Exactly. I mean, people at work have teased me and asked me questions because I sigh a lot.
Yeah, I do too. Yep.
And I tell them, I'm like, I'm not sighing. I'm exhaling with purpose.
Right.
It's
the truth, though. It really is. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, and we all kind of laugh about it. But it's true. I'm not really sighing. Well, I'm actually just purposely exhaling forcefully because I'm trying to get the whole breathing thing. And by focusing on my breathing, it takes me out of my head.
Yeah.
I'm not focusing on what the thoughts in my head. I'm focusing on breathe in, breathe out.
Right. Well, what I found, too, was by doing the breathing thing and such, I found how much I kind of hold my breath through the day. There's a lot of times where I find that I'm not, like not taking full breaths almost. And it's not on purpose. It's just, I think it's because I'm anxious and you stop focusing on, you don't focus on it. So it's as silly as it sounds. It's breathe. Like in my head, I'll do that. Or I'll just do the kind of, I can't remember what that was, where they used to do I can't remember what it was. It was like an exercise thing where you like pull your hands close to your chest and then like you push out. And when you exhale, you push forward kind of a thing. It's almost like a martial arts kind of a thing. And it's to center you. Yeah, it's to center you and like to push the negativity back kind of a thing. And it, like I said, it all kind of falls into, and I used to occasionally, I'd do that like when I was alone or whatever, because, people looking at me like, what the hell?
Exactly. Another thing is affirmation. Don't say negatives to yourself. Say positives. I can catch any ball.
Right.
I can take on any meeting.
Right.
I can finish this workload in front of me. I can go on this first date and survive.
Right. I am positive you'll drop that fly ball. Yeah.
No.
Oh. But that was a positive. I'm sure you'll mess this up.
No. Yeah. You gotta go
for the. You're totally right, though. It's why you see people on Instagram or Twitter or something, and they'll post about how nervous they are for a test or this or that, and you're like, nah, you're like, you got this. Like, you walk in, you got this. Like, if you walk in thinking any other way, it's not that you will fail, but
it makes it harder to succeed.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, and it's so important.
Yeah.
There's so much to waking up and, like you said last week, the daily affirmations in the mirror, the taking a deep breath. I am going to have a good day, and instead of saying this sucks, I got to do this, I got to do that. No. Don't let yourself go there. Every time you start going down that path, stop yourself and say, no. I'm going to have a good day.
Instead of having a swear jar, have a negative jar. Every time you have a negative thought, you have to put a quarter in it. I just start the day by putting $100 bill in it and being like, yeah, that'll cover me to lunch.
Exactly. So keep the positive affirmations going. The next thing, physical attributes. Feet planted, head high, shoulders back.
This is really important for a reason that I don't know if it'll say in there, but this one is really important if you suffer from dissociation, which is a feeling of essentially kind of almost like leaving your body or not being in the moment, like that you're not actually in. It's like daydreaming, essentially, except it can be much, much worse to the point that you feel completely disconnected from everything, almost like you're floating as the world's going by. So feet on the ground is, grounded. It can be very important for those kind of things.
And ladies, always tits out. Always, always, always. It's better for the posture, makes you look better, makes you feel better. In
truthfulness, that's for everybody, because it is,
yes.
Like you said, it's better for your posture to pull your shoulders back, and it stops you from getting a hump on your neck,
Exactly. So men, tits out. Everybody,
that's right.
Tits out.
See, we don't do like fancy names, like silly names on this show, like I do over on Salty Language. Otherwise, well, tits out wouldn't get approved by iTunes, but
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, you've got to, if you slouch, if you look down, if you carry yourself like you don't feel good, you won't feel good.
Yeah.
Something as simple as sitting up straight in your chair. If you're feeling yucky at work, for whatever reason, sit up straight in the chair, take a few deep breaths.
Well,
fake smile.
Remember a couple weeks ago I made a comment how the world is geared for us to look down. It's
Absolutely.
not geared for better, you know what I mean? So it's geared for us to kind of hunch and pull forward, and it's, stop yourself. I mean, if you're looking at a computer all the time, you should be stopping every so often and looking off into the distance for your, to let your eyes reset, and really you should get up out of your chair because, as much as you can, honestly, because sitting is really bad for your health. As I keep reading more and more about it, it's, like just sitting most of your day can lead to all sorts of bad things from the studies I've, read.
Another thing that I use all the time at work, get a silly picture and put it on your desk.
Right.
Something that makes you smile. Regardless of whatever it is, as long as it's work appropriate, of course.
Right. Nah, it's even better if it isn't. Just see how long you can get away with it, I didn't think that'd offend anybody.
And at home, surround yourself with stuff that's going to make you smile when you look at it. Whether it brings back a happy memory,
right.
Whatever it is, surround yourself with these things that prompt you to smile, prompt your brain to kind of break free from wherever it's at and to focus on something good.
Right.
And you will feel better.
Feel free to download any of my selfies.
Exactly.
My avatar on Twitter would probably make most people laugh. Just a disembodied head where I have my beard all like pushed up, so it's quite goofy looking.
The next one is voice modulation. Lower pitch, raise the volume, ask questions, show interest. Basically, participate.
Yeah.
Don't just sit back. Actively participate in whatever's going on around you. And assert yourself in the situations, appropriately, of course. Don't overdo anything. Everything in moderation.
Right.
But focus on slowing your speech down. Focus on lowering your voice some.
Especially if you're a podcaster.
I am a big, high-pitched, fast talker.
Yes.
Especially when I am excited about something or I'm nervous. All of a sudden I start to sound like Mickey Mouse and everything.
Yeah. And I'm a notorious mumbler, so it actually, that's why I was actually saying, podcasting has really helped me because I'm not someone who tends to really project my voice, but you have to when you're talking into mics and such, And it's great for people like you because, like you said, you get going a mile a minute, whereas not so great for podcasting. You need to slow down, which most people need to do when they do podcasting. It's one of the first things I tell everybody who's new to podcasting is slow your voice down because you're going to talk faster than you think you do. There's been a couple people I've met that I would not say that to, but it's not very often.
Absolutely. And that's, I'm constantly having to watch my tone, watch my volume, watch my speed when I'm talking.
Right.
And it's part. I've lived with it my entire life.
Right.
I've, from family to friends to everybody, there's this motion that everybody makes with their hand. It's like they kind of slowly hand flat.
Yep.
Like horizontal flat, and they kind of push, like they're pushing something down.
Right. They're trying to push the volume button down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, everybody has. I've told people go ahead and do it. I'm like, if I'm getting too loud or too high pitched, just do a little motion, and I know exactly what that means.
Right.
It's like, take it down.
Right.
Now, just to kind of, because I know we're probably getting close to an hour, aren't we? Yeah. So, kind of wrap things up a little bit. One more article I wanted to mention was from mindfulnessworkbook.com. Their steps that they recommend are step 1, catch your bully in the act. So as you're going through day-to-day life, soon as you notice yourself going down those bad paths, bad behaviors, acknowledge it, deal with it right then, and try to move past it.
Right, and I can't stress that one enough. That's maybe the greatest tool that I have found since being diagnosed. As I was looking around online, like people, like, hey, find your triggers, be aware of what starts you down these things, so you can deal with them before they become a problem. And it's made a huge, huge difference. Like, I know it may not sound like it the way I described, like, the intros to the shows, but it really does. Like, I'm a person who needs things to make sense. I need logic. So it allows me to find the logic in something. Like, hey, this A leads to B, so I can stop that,
Exactly. Something that I use often is stop, hammer time. Because it always makes sense.
Yeah.
As soon as my voice starts going, like, no, stop, hammer time. And I start boogieing and laughing at myself and laughing at the situations, like, and instantly kind of snaps me out of where I was at.
Right. And
anything you got to do, get yourself out of there. 2, know you're not alone. I think it's obvious, obviously Bryan and I handle this on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You are not alone by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
1 in 3 people deal with some sort of mental illness, and every single person, regardless of mental illness or not, deals with this as well.
Yeah.
Everybody does. So, and part of that in handling the bully, we talked about that, just, catch your bully in the act, take care of them, handle them. Talk to somebody. Fight back. Walk away. Whatever you choose, however you choose, find your triggers, find ways to combat that voice, and focus on stuff that makes you happy. Because there's nothing in this world without happiness.
Right.
That is the key to everything. Is find your happiness, whatever it is, however you got to do it.
And
make yourself happy.
I'll say this is, you may find yourself having to rethink what happiness is also. Mm-hmm. And by that, even though I'm not a person that's for lowering standards in life, as we talked last episode about chasing perfection, sometimes you really have to find, like I said before, like the daily to-do list, even if it's just get out of bed, wash yourself, put clean clothes on, and that's a win, and that's what makes you like, hey, I'm happy that I did that today. Like, find your win and take the win in that, and let that be your happiness. Or something it was something someone suggested to me when I was in high school, and I was really first going through depression. I actually had an English teacher suggest this to me because we had to turn in a journal. And she noticed that a lot of my stuff was very negative. And she's like, I want you to start writing one thing that made you happy today on your journal. And it was like, most people don't keep journals now or whatever, but it's like, even if you just do it for yourself, write it down somewhere. You can throw the whole thing in the trash if you want to at the end of the, when it's full or whatever, or post it on your Facebook or something to that effect. Even if you do something, and make it a private message, even if you have to, just so that you did it, basically. It's something you could do if you just need it. A lot of workbooks will tell you to do the same thing, as I've read a few, like depression workbooks, and they'll tell you kind of the same idea. Is that way it forces you to look at happiness and find something that actually made you happy that day,
Tweet about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Anything, you want to keep a record of it, though.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, wherever you're going to do it, make a record of it. Because when you start seeing these things back to back to back to back to back, all of a sudden it'll start this realization that, okay, so there is happiness.
Right.
I am finding this. You will remember a negative so much longer than you will ever remember a positive.
Yeah.
So you have to write them down. You have to keep them in the forefront of your mind, and right in front of your face, all the positive things that are out there and things that make you happy.
Yep.
Because that is the only way that you're going to be able to shut that bully up and keep that bully at bay.
Yeah.
So with that, folks, I think we're closing up the podcast for this time. As Bryan usually says, but I'm going to take it from him this night. Reminder that we are not doctors. We are not counselors. We have no degrees or medical backgrounds whatsoever. We're just two people talking. So if you need help, please reach out to a professional.
Yep.
1-800, the suicide hotlines, 911 if you need to.
Yeah. Or
make sure you get help.
I actually had a website pointed to me this week, actually from Depression Comics, which was, what is it? I think it's called 7 Cups of Tea. And they've got a bunch of people on there that if you need someone to talk to or whatever, and they also have location service on there if you need to find, a mental health professional to deal with. But they have a lot of stuff on their website. They have like chat groups for depression, pretty much for any version of mental illness. Or maybe not any, but for quite a few, they have chat groups and support systems and stuff in place. So if you need that, like I said, I think it's 7 Cups of Tea. I'll get the site and put it in the links from the show notes. Or just look up. I know it's 7 cups of something. I think it's 7 Cups of Tea though. So. Seemed like a pretty good resource.
Absolutely. And with that, if you want to get in contact with me, you can contact me at Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. You can also contact us at the Crazy Life Podcast at Weebly.com. Our email address is thecrazylifepodcast at Outlook.com. And how can they reach you, Bryan?
On Twitter, I'm at Tsunami. And my other podcast is saltylanguage.com, or you can find it on Twitter at salty_language. So, yeah.
Awesome. And I'd love to hear from you. I know Bryan would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
And ultimately, even if we don't, know that we care. It sounds cheesy. It sounds silly. But we do care. We care about each and every one of you guys that are listening. Yep. Those that don't listen, we still care about you.
Right.
We wish you would listen, but that's all right.
Right.
But no.
And
people care that you exist. People care that you are in this world. And if you don't feel like they do, reach out to us, and we'll let you know how much we care, right, and how important you are, and what you bring to this world is important.
Right. And also, I want to say that our intro song is done by our pal Henno, who you can find on Twitter at IdaHenno, IDAHENNO.
Awesome, awesome, awesome follow, people. If you're looking for somebody that's just irreverent and fun and awesome.
And I'll tell you, he does a podcast with a woman. It's called Angela's Awesome Podcast, and they're all about like nutrition, positive thinking, all that kind of stuff. So I, can't recommend that enough. Go give that a listen also.
Absolutely. And check out Salty Language, of course, to see the lighter side of Bryan with his buddy Tony.
Yeah, it's something, all right.
Hey, it's something to be proud of. You guys made it 4 years of straight podcasting every week. So
Almost. 1 week.
All right.
Yeah.
1 week away from 4 years.
Right. My kidney stones got in the way 1 week.
That's really, really impressive.
Yeah.
Impressive commitment. So
Yep.
Kudos to that, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So with that, we will hopefully hear from you this week. And if not, you will hear from us next week. Talk to you later.